Hi, welcome to MPS Education Roundtable. I'm Tom Salter, and we're very excited today to have Dr. Quesha Starks as our guest. Dr. Starks is the principal at BTW Magnet High School and has been a friend and a wonderful educator for all these many years, and we're excited to find out more about her and about what's going on at BTW. So first of all, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's so nice of you to come. You've been busy recently, and we're going to talk a lot. Well, you're always busy.
And you've been busy too, because you've been right with me.
Well, we've both been a little bit busier, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's start with Quesha Starks. How you got to be an educator? How did that start?
I've really been fortunate. My mother and father, they have been instrumental in my growth. But the interesting story is I was preparing after college. I graduated from Huntington, and I realized that I had 3 different areas of focus, but I did not have a job or an area of one point of interest.
Right.
And as I was preparing, because my desire was to be a gospel music promoter at the time and also study law.
Oh.
And as I was preparing to get a fax machine installed in my home, and I'm giving away my age here because we weren't emailing resumes back then.
Right.
I had a church member pass by, and he said, "I need a teacher in Bullock County." And I'm like, I live in Montgomery, and I'm not going anywhere near Bullock County. I'm headed to Nashville, Tennessee. So he said, "Please give me 1 year. Work for me for 1 year, and then we'll see what's next."
Wow.
And so I took him up on his offer, and I went to Bullock County, and I had the best time of my life working with brilliant children, all grade levels, and I was the computer managed instruction reading teacher.
Okay, you have to explain to us exactly what that means.
During that time, the students were taking the SAT, and there were different students who needed enrichment, and so I was the facilitator and the certified teacher for the lab where our students received enrichment in reading and math and other disciplines. And I learned throughout that process that the students were so smart, they were outsmarting the program that I was facilitating, called Plato.
Right.
The students would read ahead, get the answers, and then go back and respond. So the lab was not working. The children were just too smart. And so I started working with our media specialist, and we developed a plan. We got different novels, books, various things that we could use as resources, and we started a more hands-on approach in working with the children, develop their skills, and it worked out best for us.
So your undergraduate degree is in?
English, with also a focus in communication studies and music.
Wow.
I've had the best teachers
Wow.
my entire life, from kindergarten all the way to grad school.
So you spent a year in Bullock County as a teacher, and then what did you do?
I stayed another year.
Ah.
This was just a wonderful area. And I stayed another year, and I earned another degree in the process. And after that, it was time to come back to Montgomery County, because I'm a product of Montgomery Public Schools. And I started teaching at Booker T. Washington Magnet High School.
How about that?
And a lot of people don't know the backstory, but I also applied to teach at Carver High School and had the wonderful experience of meeting Principal Madison at the time. And I had to make a decision that he helped me make. And he knew that my background was specifically in the arts.
Right.
And he said, "You know what? We have great teachers here at Carver, but I'm looking at your destiny. And your destiny right now is at BTW Magnet." And it was because of those interests. And it's amazing.
So you've had just road signs just pop up and say, "This is the way you go."
Go BTW.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. And so, did you have any? Did you teach anywhere else, or have you been at BTW since then?
I left BTW for 1 year to be an assistant principal at McKee Middle School, in addition to Brubaker Technology Magnet and Lovelace Academic Magnet. And this was the time, and there still are administrators who do this, you split time.
Right.
And so I started out with Brewtech and Lamp, and then by mid-year or a little bit earlier, I was with Brewtech and McKee. And so I went from high school to a middle school audience, and I tell you, middle school, it helps you prepare for emergencies.
It takes a special person to teach or to be an administrator in middle school, because the kids, all the hormones and everything that are going on. It's really
It's a very important time, and I take
sure.
my hat off to every middle school principal, assistant principal, and teacher and specialist. It's powerful work.
So then you, how did you become principal at BTW? How did you go from being an assistant principal to becoming principal there?
I was in my apartment at the time. I was at the end of the year at Brewtech, and I went to answer my phone. You know, I had a cell phone, but
Right.
it was still had the landline. And I got a phone call, and the phone call was, would you be interested in coming back to Booker T. Washington Magnet High School to serve as assistant principal? And I was in heaven because Brewtech just opened, and there were closets of supplies, paper, print cartridges.
Right.
And then I had the wonderful mentorship at McKee to be able to work with the middle school students and also have great mentoring, as I did with Brewtech. And I said, I'm going back to the school where I was a teacher. And I didn't mean this in any kind of bad way, but I'm like, can you do that? Because I've been working with my colleagues. And so I did accept that opportunity to go through the official process to apply for BTW Magnet High School.
Right.
And I worked under a different principal from the one who hired me. And it was an enjoyable experience returning to work with my colleagues.
Right.
And after 1 year, my principal was promoted to the district. And I got another phone call. And that phone call was, are you interested in applying for the principalship? And we had a very humorous superintendent back then. And I said, let me pray about it and I'll get back with you. And he said in his voice, well, I hope God answers your prayers quickly because I need to know something as soon as possible. And, you know, the rest is history. And Tom, people just have to be patient because my first year as a teacher at BTW, all the new teachers were pink slipped. And I can say this now because these people have moved on, but my principal called me to the back and she said, I've watched you as a first year teacher and I believe in you. I had this pink slip that we're supposed to give all new teachers, but I'm going to call the superintendent and tell him that I'm afraid to lose you. And I need for you to come on back because if I let you go, somebody else is going to take you.
Wow.
That was such a humbling experience. And so I just tell any first year educators, you know, find out where you should be planted, be patient with yourself, learn from your leaders. I'm still learning. And I'm 20 plus years in education, but I'm learning from individuals so that I can improve in my practice.
And how long have you been principal now?
15 years. This is my 15th year as principal.
Wow, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. BTW, let's talk a little bit about the school and what it has to offer. And it's changed a little bit over the years in terms of, but the focus has always been on the arts.
The focus has always been, and it still is, on the arts. We are an arts-focused school. We specialize, and you don't realize how important the BTW educators are and the BTW staff members and students until you travel. I have made it a point, Tom, to travel throughout the United States just to find that missing critical piece that I can apply at BTW Magnet. And then I come back home every time saying, we may have very few resources, we may be limited in a number of ways, but our staff and our students, they are second to none. And there are things that we can take from schools on a national level to improve, but this is an arts-focused school, and our desire is to give students 4 years of a concentration, whether it is in dance, piano, as well as broadcast media and photography and so many other components. And they're studying just as if they were at Troy University or any other college, and they are perfecting that craft so that when they move on to college, if they don't pursue another area, they will be prepared and ahead of schedule with their concentration.
Well, you know, a lot of corporations today are looking for graduates of liberal arts programs because the things that are taught, how to think, how to work collaboratively, how to do the research you need, how to be creative. Those are the things that even the businesses are looking for today.
And that was a part of a book study that we did last year. We did a major study on creating innovators, and it was also the theme for our showcase, because students who are exposed to the arts, they do have access to a curriculum and opportunities that build and help them in their critical and analytical thinking. But they're also people who don't necessarily just think outside of the box, they throw it away. How many times have you gone into a business or a place for individuals to solve a problem, and you see a lot of buck passing, or you see someone say that we tried it this way, it's not working. The BTW student is the one who says, okay, this isn't working, let me figure out another way. And so you have a customer who's going to be pleased, and you also have a business that may thrive because you have that innovator there just thinking not only outside of the box, but saying, how can I re-envision this? How can I improve it?
Well, certainly it works, because BTW has been recognized by the Washington Post, Newsweek magazine, U.S. News and World Report, Business Week. The list goes on and on of the number of outside groups and media outlets, national media outlets, who've recognized the kind of work that you're doing there.
But it's a collaborative effort. Parents, grandparents, community members. We have a FAME board, the Friends of Arts Academic Magnet Education Board, and they are stakeholders in the community that support our school. And we have teachers, and we have partners in education. This isn't just the principal, it's not one teacher, it's not one family, one student. BTW is truly the community school.
Well, and we're going to talk specifically about how the community has impacted it recently in just a little bit. But there are some things, some magnets within BTW that some people may not realize. For instance, the law magnet.
We have a law magnet because every artist needs an attorney. So we look at law from not only the arts perspective, but this is truly something, having a lawyer who can be creative, who can be prepared to engage in arguments. It's not just about contracts and torts. We're having individuals who are truly learning the art of communication, research, and these students are also exposed to not only careers just in the courtroom, but also forensics, military, so many other areas for the students. Another component that people may not be aware of is the Center for Advanced Technology, our CAT magnet. So we have a wide array of components, but we do have those components where individuals may ask, how does CAT connect? And if you come to our annual showcase, you will see that some of the video productions are done by our Center for Advanced Technology, in addition to our photography and our broadcast media magnets.
Well, more and more now, technology is taking a, pardon the pun, center stage in theatrical productions and those types of things. So it all interacts. And I know, for instance, that your law teacher, who's an attorney, is also an accomplished actress and also a musician. I've had the pleasure of working with her a couple times. So she's Elizabeth is wonderful. You've got great staff and wonderful involved people. And I mean, as an attorney, she could have made a whole lot more money than she's making as a teacher.
Yes, and it's interesting that you said that, because we've had 3 attorneys, consecutive attorneys, over the law magnet. And it used to be where a person with a history degree could teach the component. But that's wonderful. That was a great piece. But having an attorney over the magnet, and now having an attorney who also designs set pieces, because I learned that the food spoils on the set. So she creates fake food.
She does.
That looks real. She's
a wonderful prop person. Along with, but she was played Dulcimer in a play I directed, and she's also played Helen Keller in a play. I mean, she's quite, not Helen Keller, Annie Sullivan, I'm sorry, in The Miracle Worker. She's quite accomplished. Well, let's talk about, we've talked a good bit about your faculty and about the programs. let's talk about some of your graduates. I mean,
Yes.
the proof's in the pudding, and you've got some pretty good pudding, if I can put it that way, in that you've had a Tony Award winner.
We have 2 Tony Award
Oh,
winners,
wow.
Jennifer Isaacson as well as Jason Stiers. In addition to that, we have individuals who have worked behind the scenes with the Grammys as well as Super Bowl. In addition to that, we have recording artist.
Right.
We have Albert Allenback, who is the saxophonist for Tank and the Bangas, and they won the Tiny Desk Award in PR.
Right.
Just a number. Paisley Vaughn, she has danced with Justin Timberlake and Beyonce, and the list goes on. We have individuals who were in the Law Magnet, since we mentioned this, and they're teaching on the collegiate level. We have another student, Lindell McDonald, who's working at the University of Alabama as a lighting instructor. So we have so many students, alumni, who are doing amazing work, research in the medical profession. Our Gates Millennium Scholar, Brittany, she is doing an amazing job. She was working at the Kirkland Clinic. So our students may start out in one component and then go off and to do other things.
Well, and that's one of the nice things about BTW. It gives you an opportunity to explore different areas,
Right.
and find out where your signpost is, so to speak. Okay. Well, I have another question for you. Where were you on the morning of Saturday, August 18th, 2018?
Earlier that morning, I was stirring around my house. I could not get to sleep the night before for some odd reason, and so I put my workout clothes on the door and I washed my hair. And I got in the bed for about an hour, and I received a phone call. You need to get to BTW. The building is on fire. So all of these images were going through my head, but the one thing that stayed with me the most all the way until I got to the building was there are no children and there are no staff, and we're hoping and praying that there are no injuries or no one's hurt.
Right.
So that was the longest 7-minute drive from my home, and I got to the Union Street exit. Before I even got to the exit, I saw flames coming from the windows and the top of the building. This wasn't just a little fire.
Right.
This was a huge fire. And as I got closer to BTW, I saw all of these brave, amazing firefighters. And there was a firefighter who was on a ladder, and it was like the flames were going at him, and he was still putting the water on the fire with the other individuals who were down on the ground. And these gentlemen and ladies, I'm certain as well, 5, 3, 6 to a hose, however many mandatory firefighters there are. But that was the first image. And then I went a little bit down the street, and there was one of my parents who lives very close to the campus, and her child, and a BTW alumna who is a police officer. And that was my most emotional moment out of all of this, because all I could think about, I just thought about the students, the what ifs. And so this BTW alumna, who is a police officer with the Montgomery Police Department, said, yes, there could have been children in the building, but there were no children in the building.
Right.
And I want you to be comfortable in that. So I got in my car because I was receiving different instructions, had to go down another block, was greeted by firefighters again, and they had to move a hose. I did not realize how heavy the hoses are, just for my car to get by so I could meet the team to talk about what next steps were going to be, and to also give information to the investigators.
Well, when I got there, it was about 4:30, and you'd been there for a while, and I was so impressed with how calm you were. You were in control. You were talking about what the needs were and what we were up against at the moment, what was being consumed across the street by fire. We were literally sitting in the conference room of the building that is on the, I guess, the east side of Union Street, and we were sitting there and watching the building on the west side burn through the glass.
Yes, yeah.
And it was quite a surreal experience. but you were very calm and very focused in what you needed, and we sat there and with the superintendent, of course, and our operations people, and within 30 minutes we knew what was going to happen.
And you said the key word, we.
Yeah.
And if we were to all approach every challenge, every circumstance with we, everyone can have that calm that I had on that evening, because I had you, I had Bobby Crew, I had Lee McKenzie, had Daryl Boswell, Curtis Forte, all of these people around me, and then some.
It's Chad Anderson.
Patricia Brown, Chad Anderson.
Chad's, it was his second day on the job.
Yes, second day on the
job. He had actually started
job.
the day before, and
All
our
of
new
these
director
people,
of operations.
you know, Sergeant Mackey,
Right.
all of these individuals came in at one time. So the we made the process so much easier.
And it was the we that actually made it work. And when I say we, I'm not just talking about the MPS staff. I'm talking about the community. It was, I mean, they were still pouring water on the fire when we had volunteers coming up trying to say, what can we do? How can we help?
And this was the parental piece that came in. Everything that you experience, and this is why when we encounter challenges, we've got to realize that a challenge is basically preparation for a real challenge.
Right.
Last year for Showcase, we had to figure out a seating system, and we needed adult volunteers because children didn't want to be disrespectful for people who wanted to choose their own seats.
Right.
So we had this parent, Dr. Brian Miller, who is a minister or the pastor of Aldersgate, and he coordinated a volunteer drive for Showcase. He was the first person I called after the fire,
Right.
because I said, we have a lot of people who want to help, but we need organization, because there's nothing worse than individuals showing up to do something and not being
Not having
directed.
anything to do. Yeah, sure.
So he started an online sign-up process for our volunteers. We had over 700 volunteers, and half of the volunteers had no affiliation with Booker T. Washington.
Right. Just community members
Community
who saw
members.
a need and wanted to help. And the same thing was true of people who with skills, like the gentleman, I'm sorry, I've forgotten his name all of a sudden, who had the the janitorial
Yes,
service.
Cannon Janitorial
Right,
Service,
that's
Orlando
it.
Cannon. He not only provided a service, he left a donation. And how many businesses are going to leave behind a donation? But we had even businesses like Independent Glass. They were hired to put glasses in our dance studio, and they
Mirrors.
went back to their mirrors.
You're right.
They went back and they convened, collaborated as a team, and they said, we're not going to charge this district or this school for these mirrors in the dance studio. And it's just in-kind work like that, as well as those
We
who
saw that over and over again.
Over and over again.
Lowe's donated stuff.
Time.
Home Depot donated stuff, and we had the company that actually moved the stuff out of the BTW that survived
Yes.
over to the new campus. Only charged the minimum that they could just to basically pay their workers. They took, it was
Right.
less than half price.
And we can't forget about the city of Montgomery.
Oh, of course,
You
and
know,
the
Mayor
county.
Strange, the county. There were basically individuals who were working on the weekend to provide
me.
support for us.
It was amazing.
And the state, you know, I mean, this was,
Sure, Dr. Mackey
you
came.
know, Dr. Mackey, Governor Ivey, all of these individuals came together to help us and to help our students.
We had offers from the Air Force to for trucks and things like that. We couldn't use everything that was offered, but we were certainly grateful for it. And because of that, we were able to move the school in 7 days.
Yes.
God created the earth in 7 days. We created a school in 7 days.
And technically, it's fewer than 7 days
Yeah.
because we had to get the facility ready.
Right.
And so the move would not have been possible without state officials, city, county officials. It would not have been possible.
it wouldn't.
And without educators in schools. You know, we're talking about all of the big people, but I'm thinking about the little people, the elementary school students,
Right.
middle school students, other high school students, public and private schools. all of these individuals came to provide support.
We had some of your students and other students pulling staples out of the wall
Yes.
in the new or the relocated building. The superintendent was there pulling
Yes.
staples out of the walls, and she said she would never sign another purchase order for staples in her life because they were.
And I agree with Dr. Moore, because we still have some of the fragments of the staples, and if you go by a door too quickly, you'll get a little wound.
Snag. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Well, it was really amazing how the community came together and helped the school with stuff and with labor, and if we can do that on all our problems.
It's interesting. I told my staff after this, we have a lot that we're working on with community service, but since I arrived at BTW, the school has been a community service school. We do so many things in kind. We do a lot of volunteerism. And I told the students and the staff, I said, what you've done over the years is coming back to you 2- and 3-fold. So we've got to give it back 2- and 3-fold. Now Aldersgate is serving as a shelter. And so BTW is going to have to pick up the phone or go to Aldersgate to say, now, what can we do for you? Not that we're saying that we owe Aldersgate, but we have been taught community service through all of these different groups, Fraser, Macedonia, Aldersgate, all of these churches, Jericho, and I could go on. And now it is our duty to return to our community service that we've always done, but to go at a higher level.
It's amazing. It's just to watch it and to think about it, all the people who came together for that, and now hopefully we can have the same kind of community involvement as we tackle other challenges and look for other road signs as we go forward. We're just almost out of time. I have to say how much I love your mother.
I love her too. I love my mom and my father.
She is wonderful. Ann Starks works with the State Department of Education, and she's been there for a very long time as one of the secretaries and an assistant. She actually is in charge of the Teacher of the Year program.
She is. Teacher incentive program.
Just wonderful, and you are too.
Thank you.
You're
and she is the one, and my father and my grandmother and just the whole family. They've given me that sense of calm and that positive outlook, because in closing, Tom, we don't have a lot of things because we don't speak positivity over things. And I think if we were to just walk around and say, yes, I don't see a building right now, but one is coming down the road, or that child may not be able to read today, but tomorrow he will, or she will. So just speaking positivity over all situations.
Well, you were one of the most positive people and the most lovely and wonderful and intelligent folks I know, and we are so glad to have you in Montgomery Public Schools.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you'll come back again to our next MPS Education Roundtable. Have a great day.